Fade in. Black screen. Then a heartbeat. Slow. Loud. Heavy. The war ended 6 years ago. They said that. But war doesn't end. It just waits. Out past the satellites. Beneath the treaties. Inside the bones of dead cities. Where the shadows remember. Where something hunts. And he never left. Exterior shot. Rain. Steel. A ruined Earth outpost. Gideon Voss moved through the dark like a ghost. Boots silent on broken concrete. Breath steady in the cold air. Eyes always scanning. He wasn't a soldier anymore. Not by command. But he still wore the gear. Still carried the scars. Still had the instincts. Because Gideon didn't believe the war was over. Not for 1 second. They said the aliens signed a ceasefire. That the generals declared Earth a no-fire zone. But something inside him never bought the silence. Never trusted peace that came too easily. So he hunted. On his own. Off-grid. No orders. Just a signal. Weak. Buried. Ancient. And human. Amira. She was a scout. Missing in action during the retreat. Officially listed as dead. But Gideon never accepted that. Because 2 nights ago, her signal came back. 1 ping. From beneath the ruins of Outpost 9. Deep inside the zone, no one dared to enter. And Gideon? He was already halfway there. Interior shot. Subsurface shaft. Tight. Crumbling. He rappelled down into the dark. No comms. No GPS. Just a ping in his HUD. Getting stronger. Every level down, the air grew thicker. Dirt turned to ash. Steel turned to bone. Then, movement. Fast. Wrong. Silent. Gideon froze. Hand on rifle. Finger on trigger. Heart like a war drum. He wasn't alone. A shape crossed his path. Almost gliding. 8 feet tall. Armor like obsidian. Head crowned with ridge plating. An alien general. Not just present. Guarding something. And it hadn't seen him yet. His training kicked in. Calm. Silent. Inhale. Exhale. But his gut screamed. This wasn't a patrol. This was an observation. This was a harvest. Then he saw it. Behind the general, buried beneath dust and rubble, a cryo chamber, human markings, sapphire glow, and inside, a body, a face, her, Amira, still alive, still frozen. And the general was reaching for her. Its fingers moved like blades. No scanner. No care. Just possession. Gideon moved. Fast. Silent. Closed the gap with decades of muscle memory. Took aim. The HUD blinked red. An O-fire zone. Treaty lock sector. Firing would trigger every orbital alarm. Every political protocol. Every global response. Didn't matter. He'd already pulled the trigger. Boom. The shot echoed like thunder. The general's shoulder blew apart. It spun. Hissed. Then roared. A sound like metal torn through teeth. The hunt was on. Gideon moved, fast and hard. Reloaded. Dropped another round into its chest. No hesitation. No mercy. He wasn't trying to negotiate. He was here to end it. The general lunged. Too late. Gideon hit it again. Point blank. Metal cracked. Black blood hissed on the floor. Then stillness. Just the hum of the cryopod. And his breath. And the realization that there was more. He looked up. A tunnel. Lined with spires. Alien architecture. Fresh. Built in secret. This wasn't a graveyard. It was a nest. And Amira? She wasn't the only one down here. Suddenly, alarms. The HUD lit up. Satellite relays active. The treaty breach had been logged. Earth Command would see it in seconds. But so would they. And above him, far above, The alien generals opened their eyes because the zone had been broken, because one human started the hunt early. Final frame. Gideon lifts Amira's pod, throws it over his shoulder, turns back toward the shaft. One man, one war, and a whole planet about to remember what it means to fight back. Hard cut to black. Static, then silence, then breath, a rifle, smoking. The shell still echoed off the stone. A metallic scream split the air as the round struck. Not clean, but deep, right under the clavicle of a being that had never known pain. Until now, the general staggered. Its armor hissed again. Naynite scrambled to contain the rupture, but they couldn't stop the red. That dark red, almost black blood. It hit the floor, sizzled on impact. Gideon just stared. "You bleed," he said under his breath, as if confirming a theory, as if it meant something. Because it did. They weren't gods. They weren't immortal. They bled, and bleeding things could die. The general's head snapped toward him. Not rage, not fear, confusion. "How?" it whispered, in a voice like folding steel. That weapon was outlawed in the Accord. Gideon reloaded. This ain't the Accord. He stepped sideways, taking cover behind a fallen support beam. The echo of footfalls behind him now. More coming. The walls were closing in. Tactically, methodically, they wanted him contained. Not dead. Not yet. They didn't understand. He was a containment breach. Boom. Another shot. Shrapnel peeled off a wall near his head. They were testing his position, corralling him. He moved. Fast. Control chaos. Dropped a flash shell behind him. Light like God's fist in the darkness. Screams. Alien optics fried on impact. They hadn't adapted. Still using their protocols. Still playing by rules. That was their mistake. Gideon hadn't played by rules since the siege of Jakarta. He didn't play anymore. He survived. He burst into a side corridor, boots clanging against rusted steel. A feral snarl echoed behind him. Vipers. 3 now. Sleek. Fast. Organic synthetic nightmares. Bred for war. He knew their rhythm. 50 meters. Then leap. Claws out. Eyes wide. Screeching. He counted. 1. A burst of static crackled in his ear. Old comms. Something was trying to connect. 2. He raised a grenade. Not high-tech. Not alien. Just earthborn fire. Reliable. Ugly. 3. He dropped it behind him and dived. Boom. A scream. 1 Viper gone. The others scrambled, but not fast enough. Gideon turned mid-roll, fired 2 rounds. 1 headless, 1 twitching. He didn't wait. Time was bleeding out. He reached the cryo chamber again. Amira was still there, still breathing in ice, still waiting. He touched the interface. Old Alliance tech, keyed to DNA. He slammed his palm down. Light surged. The pod hissed open. Steam. Sound. And her hand twitched. She was waking up. He leaned in, voice cracked, barely audible. Hey, Amira, it's me." Her eyes fluttered, like memory returning. "Gid." Then the wall behind him exploded. Stone, metal, ash, and another general stepped through. This one was ready, fully armored, shoulder-mounted plasma arc glowing blue. Not hesitant, just executioner. Gideon grabbed Amira, pulled her out of the pod. Half conscious, weak. He moved fast, tactical, every step calculated, because now he wasn't fighting for revenge. He was fighting for her. They crashed through the catacombs. Sparks lighting the dark. Explosions behind them. The general didn't speak, didn't taunt, didn't warn. It just followed, silent, deadly, unrelenting. Gideon reached the old elevator shaft. Hold on. He wrapped a mirror in the rope, clicked the winch, and launched the pulley line up with a magnetic grapple. It caught, barely. They rose. Slow, too slow. The general stepped into the shaft below, lifted its cannon, aimed. BZZZ. Blue light. Incoming. Gideon wrapped his body around hers, took the hit in the side, searing flesh. Pain like nothing he'd ever known. His scream echoed up the shaft, half choked, but he didn't let go. He didn't let go. The lift reached the top, collapsed to the floor. Amira groaned. Gideon rolled beside her, smoke rising off his armor. He tried to breathe, but the air was thick with ozone and blood. And then, voices, human voices, boots, guns, flashlights, a squad, real ones, Alliance Resurgence Unit. They'd picked up the surge, tracked the breach. They surrounded the shaft, lit it up. The general stared up from below, motionless, silent, outnumbered now, not defeated, just waiting. The commander looked at Gideon, eyes wide. Jesus, what the hell happened here? Gideon coughed, held his side, still bleeding, still breathing, and with a growl he whispered, static, then a heartbeat, then another, slower now, heavier. The war was never over, and now it was awake again. Pan in, a tactical med pod, steel walls, dim lights overhead. Gideon Voss lay strapped to the bed, chest burned black, blood seeping from his side like ink in water. The med bots worked in silence. Cut, stitch, pulse check. He stared at the ceiling, not blinking, not breathing steady. His mind was still in the shaft, still in the dark, still hearing her voice. Gid, don't leave me. Amira was alive, still weak, but conscious. She sat 2 meters away, for in her arm, confusion in her eyes, pain in her voice. Where are we? A soldier approached. Clean armor. Too clean. Major in Hadley. Resurgence Division. Off-world. Fresh from Titan deployments. He didn't like the way Gideon breathed. Didn't like the silence. You know what you've done? Gideon didn't answer. Do you even care what this means? Still silence. You shot an alien general. You opened fire in an no-fire zone. You broke every interstellar regulation, still holding this fragile pile of ash together. Gideon raised one hand and pointed right at the glass wall behind Hadley, where it was playing, looping, again and again, the footage from his HUD, the hunt, the first shot, the general bleeding, the vipers, the pod, Amira, the cryo chamber buried beneath the bones of civilization. Hadley turned, watched, silence, thicker than armor. Jesus. They were never honoring the treaty, Gideon said. Voice hoarse, mouth dry, eyes cold. They were waiting, buying time, digging deeper. Amira looked up. Why me? She didn't remember being taken, didn't remember the pod, didn't know how long she'd been gone, only that he found her when no one else did. Hadley turned back. This is going to fracture the accord. Once the other generals see what happened. They already saw, Gideon said. Pause. No blink. Dead calm. They sent 2 more in behind the first. They didn't come to negotiate. They came to extract. Hadley's face changed. The denial cracked. He'd suspected. They all had. Whispers. Patterns. Energy spikes in forbidden zones. But no one wanted another war. Not after what the first one did to Earth. So they ignored it, turned their eyes, prayed the monster stayed in their half of the galaxy. They didn't. And now, it was already too late. Meanwhile, back in the ruined Undercity, the shaft was empty, scorched, dead, but not silent. A whisper, then a glow. The general stepped forward, the one Gideon had shot, its wound now sealed, skin reknit by psionic tendrils. Another shape emerged from the shadows behind it, taller, thinner, eyes like polished onyx. No armor, just robes, but the power dripping from it was suffocating. A chancellor, higher than a general, older, wiser, crueler. It reached out one clawed hand, touched the cracked stone wall, and felt it, the echo of human rebellion, of blood spilled where it wasn't allowed. And it spoke, not aloud, but into every alien mind across the orbital fleet. The sanctuary is compromised. Initiate contingency. Deploy the harvesters. Back at the Resurgence outpost, Amira twitched, grabbed her head, screamed. Her mind split with pressure, like something trying to claw its way in. Gideon leapt from the med table, staggering. She's being scanned. Hadley turned, panic in his eyes. We're inside a Faraday shell. They can't reach her. They're not reaching her tech. Gideon looked straight into Hadley's face. They're reaching her mind. Amira collapsed. Gideon caught her. She was convulsing now. Images firing in her brain. Alien architecture. Stars that didn't belong. Coordinates. Sequences. Maps. To something. To somewhere. And they wanted it. Because she had seen it. Before the cryo. Before the stasis. Back when she was a scout. Back when she'd vanished behind enemy lines. She had touched something. Something she wasn't supposed to. And now it was calling back. Gideon stood, lifted her into his arms, turned to Hadley. I need a ship. Where are you going? To end this before it begins. That zone is under full alien lockdown. No one flies in. I'm not asking for permission. Hadley hesitated, then tossed him the key card. I'll stall command. Gideon nodded, and with that, they were moving again, bleeding, running, fighting against time, because the sky was changing. Fleets were moving. Orbit darkened with the silent shape of alien dreadnoughts, invisible, but felt. Sanctuary, it was over. It had fractured, and below it all, deep beneath even the oldest ruins, something ancient stirred, woken by the blood, by the noise, by the human defiance. And it whispered, so soft, so cold, let the hunt begin. Wind, cold, high atmosphere. The shuttle ripped through clouds like a blade, nose down, engines whining, and inside, silence. Amira sat strapped in, shaking, wrapped in thermal foil, eyes glassy, breath shallow, still riding the edge of that alien touch, still haunted by what she saw. Gideon didn't ask. He didn't need to. He'd seen that look before, on prisoners pulled from Psy-War black sites. It wasn't trauma. It was knowing too much, and knowing it wants you back. The shuttle dropped low, hugging mountain ridges. The landscape below, blackened, cracked, scarred by weapons no human ever built. This was the dead zone, the zone no one entered, a place lost in the surrender, where the last offensive fell silent. Coordinates burned into Amira's mind, led here to a ridge older than anything charted. Alien geometry buried beneath rock, perfect circles, impossible symmetry, and deep in its heart, a signal. They landed hard. Dust rose. Gideon grabbed his rifle. Amira clutched the neural dampener tight to her chest, her last shield, her only line between sanity and the echo. They moved fast, silent, no backup, no eyes, because Command didn't approve this, didn't even know. Resurgence Base had gone dark an hour after they left. Something hit it. No comms, no distress, just nothing. Hadley's voice was the last thing they heard. Godspeed. Voss, don't let them wake it. They reached the drop point. A cave. But not just a cave. A door. Hidden in optical illusion. Light bent around it. Like reality was afraid to touch it. Amira reached out, fingers trembling. The door opened. Without sound. Without code. Like it had been waiting. Inside, the structure shifted. Not stone. Not metal. Memory. It responded to thought. To fear. To presence. Lights flared. Walls pulsed. A hum in their bones. Something aware. Something buried. Amira led. Eyes closed now. Letting the vision guide her. And Gideon? He watched every corner. Every flicker of motion. Finger hovering over the trigger. He didn't trust walls that moved like lungs. Didn't trust air that whispered in voices not quite human. Then they found it. A chamber. Massive. Circular. Empty, except for the cradle. At its center, suspended in midair. Rotating. Emitting pulses like sonar. Like a beacon. Gideon stepped forward. Is that it? Amira nodded. Her voice cracked. They didn't just find a weapon, Gid. They found a mind. Suddenly, flash, an impact like lightning. The chamber lit up. Walls surged. Something was here. Gideon turned, rifle raised, and froze. The general, not the first, not the second, the first one. Still alive, still burning, but different now. Fused with something deeper, something old. It spoke, not with words, but directly into them. You broke the accord. You bled on sacred soil. You woke the architect. Amira fell to her knees, screaming. The beacon above her spun faster, pulsing. Gideon fired. Boom, boom. Rounds hit the general. Did nothing. It stepped forward. 1 foot, then another, until it was within striking range. Gideon threw his rifle, drew the knife. Steel, old, human, come on. And he charged. The fight was short, brutal, desperate. He didn't win it, but he changed it, because he wasn't trying to kill the general anymore. He was buying time. Seconds, moments, for her. Amira crawled to the beacon, wires wrapping around her arms. She didn't resist. She let it in, and as her body convulsed, her mind opened, and inside it, she saw it all. The architect, not a weapon, a sleeper, a remnant from before stars. It lived in thought. And the generals? They weren't its masters. They were its jailers. They buried it, feared it, but they couldn't destroy it. Only one species ever could. One species chaotic enough, stubborn enough, mad enough to finish what they started. Humans. Amira screamed. One final push. And the beacon shattered. Light consumed the room. A wave of force flattened the general, sent Gideon crashing into the wall. And from that light, a voice, not alien, not male, not female, just ancient, and listening. I remember you. I remember your kind. Let us finish this together. Amira floated now, eyes open, alive, changed. She turned to Gideon, still barely conscious, still bleeding, still fighting to stand. It chose us. Then the mountain began to fall. Explosions. Collapse. The last failsafe. The aliens knew the beacon was a key, and they'd wired the whole place to burn if breached. Gideon rose, grabbed her hand. They ran. As the mountain crumbled, as the sky above lit with alien fire, as earth below stirred with a hum of something new, something woken. Final scene, orbit, dark, silent, until a pulse, a surge, from Earth, spreading like wildfire, knocking alien systems offline, corrupting their networks, not with code, but with something worse. Imagination, emotion, chaos. Humanity's mind was now connected to the architect, to the last memory of resistance. And the generals? They had no defense for that. They declared a no-fire zone. They signed the peace. They called us tame. But Gideon had already started the hunt. And now we're all in it.